Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights. I'm your host, John Kasman, and I'm glad you joined us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying this show, do me a favor and leave us a 5-star rating and review. And don't forget to hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we're going to be talking to my man, Agostino Pintus. All right. Agostino has a great background. He came from Canada and now resides in Cleveland. He's a former IT C-level executive, and over the last 20 months, he's invested in over $40 million worth of real estate as a general partner. Let's welcome to the show, Agostino Pintus.
Hey, man. Thanks for inviting me, man. Really stoked to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on. So listen, you have a special place in my heart already. Anybody in Cleveland is a good fan of the show and good people to know. So Thank you for representing the hometown, born and raised in Cleveland myself. You had a bit of a journey getting to Cleveland, though, coming from Canada. And I know you made some stops in between. Why don't you quickly walk us through your journey from Canada to Cleveland?
Sure. You know, it's been quite the journey. My parents are actually immigrants from Italy. And I've growing up in Canada to poor immigrants, one of the things that I've always wanted to do since I was a kid was have my own company, run my own business. I've been an entrepreneur since I was 9 years old. And from the time I first started my little computer company, my software development business, that's what I was doing when I was 9, right? I was coding. And, rather than taking the entrepreneur route, because I was good at developing software. I went to corporate America and worked my way up the chain. By the time I was 27, I was running an IT group. By the time I was in my early 30s, I'm running global enterprise IT for a publicly traded company. I was earning big bank. I had the fancy cars and the houses and all that stuff. I started buying real estate. This is about 16, 17 years ago. I started doing like single family homes and small multifamily, and everything was going great. Until one day, my boss comes in my office and hands me the box and says, "Get out." And I'm like, oh man, So that really, at that point, I felt worthless because here I am. I helped build this company. These guys started with maybe 100 employees, and I helped them grow to thousands of employees around the nation. And I felt that I was part of this business, an important part. And we really have to watch what we tell ourselves. That bit of self-talk that I told myself, what a big failure I was because I lost my job that was handed to me. That set me on a path for a 10 dark years is what I call it. And these 10 dark years, it got into picked up a lot of bad habits. I ended up in some very bad places. I went from job to job to job, picking up any job I could find. At one point, I was sending out 500 resumes a week, trying to find any job, anybody that would hire me. Ridiculous.
Wow.
Ridiculous.
Wow.
And then, but then once I committed to doing real estate again, because during this whole time, my real estate portfolio was the only thing that was really giving me a lifeline to some cash, something. I realized that is where I needed to be. But it wasn't until I talked to a friend of mine about multifamily and about deal syndication that I realized that's when the light went on. And I'm like, that's what I need to be doing. And once I refocused and recommitted to studying, to training, to learning, and then committed to doing syndication, that's when the floodgates opened. And now that's all I do now. I focus just on multifamily. I help make money for my investors. I make money for myself. I make money for my family. I'm looking to leave a legacy for my kids, my kids' kids. I want my kids' kids' kids to know my name. That's how big this thing's got to be.
I love it, man. I love it. And the legacy is an important part. We talk to a lot of investors, and I think that when you talk about legacy and generational wealth, those are really key components and the reasons why people look towards multifamily, because it's more about what you can leave and what you can develop for your family and your family's family versus what you can do by yourself. I mean, obviously you could flip homes and invest in single family houses that do well for yourself and not really have to worry about the long tail impact. But by focusing on multifamily, you can truly make a difference and make an impact that lasts for generations. You started talking about a couple of different things, right? You go from being a high level IT executive, taking a company from 100 employees to 1,000 employees, being an integral part of that growth, and then getting handed a box one day, just randomly getting handed a box. You're out on your own. You go through a dark period of 10 years trying to figure out what in the heck you're supposed to be doing with your life. And then you kind of come back around to real estate. If you can take us back to that dark period just for a little bit here, what was going on in your mind? I mean, I imagine you spent a lot of time going from being that entrepreneur to basically becoming an employee and going through that down period for that 10-year cycle. What was going through your mind? What were some of the challenges that you faced? And what was it that ultimately snapped you out of it that allowed you to figure out real estate was where you needed to refocus?
Yeah, sure. It's like I said earlier, you really got to watch out what you tell yourself, right? And when I was this young man earning all this money at the time, I thought was a lot of money, right? And it is a lot of money, but I mean, compared to what you make in real estate, it's really not that much. But back then, we have these limiting beliefs that are in our heads, right? Everyone's got them. That's how we're raised, unfortunately. But when I was handed that box, I convinced myself that I was a failure, right? The failure defined by society, by this employer, right? And like I said, you have to watch what you tell yourself. And me convincing myself that I was a failure and I lost everything. I mean, I got to a point where they turned off the power at my house. You know what I mean? It's like I had to. it was bad, And it took three things, right? I had to decide that I was going to be destined for greatness, right? I had to decide that I had to get out of this scenario, this situation, right? Then I had to commit to whatever it is I was going to do to eventually see the third thing, which is success. And what it took was refocusing and training. And what I did was when I committed to real estate, when I realized, over all this time period, my real estate portfolio, whatever I had left of it, was still trickling in a little bit of money. There's times when I was just surviving off of it, like $500-600 a month. That's how bad it got, right? I didn't lose anything. That was the thing. I mean, all my friends and family that went bankrupt with all their real estate during 2008, 2009, I didn't lose any of my properties. I kept them all, right? Because of the way that I structured. So I had a knack for doing that, right? So I knew what I was doing with real estate, but it took retraining, because I think for many people, what they do is that after they finish high school or after they finish college or university or whatever, where we're told to read, study, people stop studying. And the one thing about the most successful CEOs is that every single CEO that has built any type of wealth or any type of great company, they're reading at least a book a week, at least. Most people don't even read a book a year, let alone a week, right? And I had to recommit to studying, to training like my life depended on it. Because it did. I mean, I had no other choice. I had to, right? And, that failure, what it ended up doing, and after going through all the training and studying how to sell, studying psychology, studying real estate, all these different things to make me successful that I've experienced today, that failure made me face what I really am and what I'm not. I might have been really, really good at tech, and I might have been like, I thought I was excellent at technology, right? But in reality, real estate was where it really belonged. It wasn't tech. It's been real estate the entire time. Either I ignored it or just didn't see it, or I didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad like most people. I just figured it out on my own, And it was retraining, recalibrating my entire life, removing all the negative people out of my life. And I had a lot of negative people, getting rid of them, all of them, right? Relentless about it, cutting them off out of my life, right? Bringing in the positive people and bringing in the right training and the right mindset and surrounding myself by what I want to do. That's one thing. And then secondly is when I decided what I was going to do is document those decisions, and in the form of affirmations, right? Something that I do every single day. I write out my affirmations. I write out my future as if it's already happened, right? That in itself is huge, right? I tell myself I have 200 grand a month in revenue of income, right? I have 3,000 units. I have the fancy car. I have the house on the beach. I write it as if it's happening right now, right? Because your mind does not know the difference. And all these different things, once you're able to put your mind into that focus, it changes your whole outlook, right? To me, multifamily is just a vehicle to get me there. It's a vehicle that I know I can leave that legacy. It just happens to be multifamily. See, and like you said, it's the only thing there. And take it from a guy who's failed at a lot of stuff. I did mobile apps. I did call centers. I did finance companies. I did phone companies. I did a lot of stuff. Right? I was a serial entrepreneur. Every single one of them failed. This is the only thing that works. It's the only thing where the banks are calling you and asking you, "Hey, do you have a deal for us?" It's the only thing. There's nothing else out there.
Well, I think the beauty of it is that with multifamily, I mean, you're talking about brick and mortar buildings, and it's the one thing banks understand. So no matter how great you are as an entrepreneur, they don't understand your business. They don't understand your apps. They don't understand, your vending machine company or some of these other things that people come up with, but they understand that there's intrinsic value in an apartment building. And they understand the apartment building because it's simple enough where they know that, hey, if you have places where people need to live, you can rent them and there's value there. No matter what shape or condition the building is in or how you're operating it, they can take it from you and give it back. So there's value there. So even from a funding standpoint, there's always an availability to get funding on some commercial properties for those reasons. You started hitting on quite a few things there that I started taking notes on. You mentioned removing negative people from your life. And I think that was really important. Starting to bring in positive people was one of the things that really helped you. And then creating the mindset and focusing on the mindset, the affirmations, writing down those decisions of who you want it to be and making sure you're doing those affirmations on a daily basis of the lifestyle that you wanted to create, the lifestyle that you wanted to live, and really speaking that into the universe. I want to fast forward about the impact of some of those techniques and some of those strategies and how that led you to build bulletproof cash flow and kind of take you to where you are present day. So we talked about, in the last 20 months, you've done $40 million worth of real estate as a general partner. Talk to us about the impact of those affirmations to get you to the point you're at today.
Yeah. If I could sum it all up, focus. That's it. Focus, right? So what I did that's different from many other people when I was going through this and I decided that I was going to do real estate and make that commitment I mentioned, I found two virtual mentors. They weren't even real mentors because I didn't know, right? At the time, that was even an option, right? I had no idea that all these podcasts were out there, all this stuff was out there. I chose Robert Kiyosaki and Sam Zell. Sam Zell, a billionaire real estate guy, started from nothing and built up an empire. And I think everybody knows who Robert Kiyosaki is, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Two guys. That's it. Just two. I focused on these two guys, listened to everything I could find until I felt that I had enough of the grasp of what they were trying to say. Then I found two new mentors. What I didn't do was listen to 15 different podcasts, read 18 different books, go to conference after conference after conference after conference. I didn't do any of that stuff. This is when I first started. Focus. Two guys. Very different. One's tactical, one's strategic, because I needed to fill my head with the understanding of how does this business work? How do they do it? How do these guys do it? Right? And I think that's probably that is one of the foundational components that I still do to this very day. All I do is multifamily. That's it. I don't do land. I don't do industrial. I don't do commercial. I don't do like retail, that kind of thing. All I do is multifamily. That's it. Even now, it's like we're kicking around maybe doing a renovation deal like a big renovation deal, even that is going to be multifamily, so it's like, it's all one thing. I'm a one-trick pony. I do that pony like nobody's business. That's my trick. That's what I do. Right. And, I knew that there's other people like me out there, that they were lost. Right. When, I have friends that are my age, and they're still stuck in that whole 40-hour work week, miserable, getting sick from where they're working because they're surrounded by negative people, but also the environment's not a really good environment for them personally, for their health. And yet they keep doing that. And there's even at this last event that I went to, there's all these people that need this kind of help. This could be an escape for many, many other people, is doing this type of thing, taking control of your own future. We only get once around the ride. I mean, I don't know what everybody's, what their faith is, but as far as I know, I don't know what happens after this. All I know is I got one shot. That's it. That's all I know. And you got to make the most of it. You can either go and slave for 40 hours a week at a job that you hate, that nobody wants to be at, including your boss, or you can take control of your own life and live it the way you want to live it on your own terms.
Yeah. I think to your point there, I mean, when you're working for someone else, you don't have the power, and it doesn't matter how great you are at your job. I mean, and you saw that right firsthand. When you are working for someone else, at any moment, they can hand you that box. And I was fortunate, but, I worked at General Motors at a time where we went through those hardships, and I watched people to my left and to my right get handed those boxes unexpectedly. Many of them did not have another source of income or other means to hold them over, and were left scrambling because they had worked the American dream. Get a great job, work that job until you retire. And that's pretty much it, right? It was like really a two-step thing. Go to school, get a great job, keep that job, and work it until you retire. And, for me, it was that moment that crystallized that, hey, I better have something else in place, because no matter how great I am today, at some point tomorrow, at some point in the future, they may want to get younger. They may not want to pay somebody what they're paying me. Maybe technology has moved past and I'm no longer, sharp enough, whatever the case may be. I didn't want to, give that control to an organization. And I think everyone should think about it that way, whether you want to or not. Even if you love your job, even if you absolutely love your job, you should have additional income streams that are giving you flexibility, the means to invest in other assets and to stretch those dollars and to continue to invest for future generations. You started talking also about how you started noticing other people in this space. And I want to get to kind of bulletproof cash flow and what really sparked you to launch this platform. Can you talk to us about that a little more?
One of the things that we do at our live events, and I started putting them on just to reach other people, and these other people would come out and they wanted to network and they wanted to talk about multifamily. So again, all our events are focused on multifamily. That's all we talk about. It's either that or somebody that wants to get out of doing wholesaling and wants to do multifamily. So it's all about that. Even our live events are all about that. And the thing is that many of these folks that'll come out, they're it's going to sound terrible to say, a lot of them don't know what to do, or they're currently floating right now, right? They're taking it day by day, right? Without that focus, without without knowing what to do. And that's why in our platform, and what I try to do, and when I say platform, the YouTube channel, our website, our book club, all these different things that we do is to help other people change their mindset and consider their future. I don't care if they buy anything from me. It's not even about that. I don't even care about that. I'm looking to change lives. That's what I'm looking to do. I'm looking to wake people up. It's like the way that things have been told, it's the same thing that's been happening since the 1950s. Just like you said, go get a job. You're going to work there for 30 years to give you the gold watch, and then they're going to give you a big party, then you go home, and then you're going to die. Wow, sounds awesome. Can I do that again? No, man, no, don't do that. But I think that many people also underestimate the amount of effort that goes into doing this stuff. It's like for guys like us, we do this every day. You were saying in the green room a bit ago that, you're getting a bunch of LOIs out. People don't know how to put that stuff together. We learned how to do it, right? We learned how to negotiate that, how to negotiate it up front, how to talk, how to sell, how do you convince that other person on the other end of that LOI that John can close the deal, right? I can close the deal. That all takes training. That all takes experience. But for someone that's starting out, they just don't know what to do, right? So that's why we created the platform, is to help other people explain to them, here's what an LOI is and here's why it's important. An LOI is more than just, here's an offer. It's more than just that. You have to convince that you are capable of closing a deal, right? Either by yourself or with your partners or whatever the case may be. It's, and again, people, that's just one small example, right? But that's the reason why we did that. That's why we do it today. I mean, we give away a lot of material all over the website, and we have our free ebook that we have as well that people can download on how to find a broker. We have more free stuff coming out. I just want to get people educated. I just want to wake them up. That's about it. That's all Bulletproof Cash Flow is about, is waking up. And like you said, building that generational wealth. To me, that could be part of the legacy, in a way. Is if I can help a million people reach their goals, then I did my job.
Yeah, I love that, man. We'll make sure we link to that ebook as well. And if you're looking for more information, I know Agostino has some on his website. We'll certainly make sure we link to that. Definitely check out some of the information he has. Before we move on to our bullseye round, I want to talk a little bit about the growth you've seen, right? So we said over the last 20 months, $40 million worth of real estate. Can you provide some context to the types of deals that you're doing? We know it's all multifamily, but where are you doing these deals? Talk to us about kind of your business model and what you're working on there.
Sure. So I primarily focus on Cleveland, Akron, right? I know this market. I know it well. All the assets that we have are in and around Cleveland and Akron. So as far south as Canton, if you're looking at a map, as far north as Lorain, and with the bulk sitting in between Cleveland and Akron. The model is that by focusing, again, focus on one area, that area very, very well. You know what the cost per door should be. You know what the rents are. You have the proper management in place that can help run all these things. And then you're able to buy in bulk for renovation and whatever type of repairs you might need. You get to use the same people to help renovate these things. Because I think that many people out there, many gurus and all this stuff, they make a big deal about, hurry up, I'll get you into a deal, hurry, buy now. No, man, getting into a deal is easy compared to running it for 10 years profitably. That's hard stuff. Getting into a deal is simple compared to running it. And I'm a real big believer in that. That's why I focus on one area. And once we get to about 1,500 units or so, at that point, I'm going to go to my next market. I'm already looking at different markets right now. I'm not going to stop buying in Cleveland and Akron, but I know that I'll have some critical mass there that I'll feel comfortable that if I can leave it alone for a week and it won't go to hell in a handbasket, it'll be okay, right? Right now, I keep a very close eye on everything, and because you have to keep an eye on everything, right?
Give me context of that. How do you? I mean, as an asset manager, most of the people, once you get to your point, right? I think coming into multifamily, it's how to get started. Once you get that first deal, it's managing the deal and the asset manager. We don't spend a whole lot of time talking about it. We should spend way more time talking about managing the actual asset. Just provide some context. How do you keep your eye on it? Is it daily calls, weekly calls? What exactly are you doing to kind of monitor the assets in the portfolio?
Yeah, so we do a weekly call. It's the weekly KPI call, right? And we go through everything from what is the potential revenue, what is the current revenue, what is occupancy at, how many evictions do we have, how many evictions do we have last week, because we do it weekly compared to this week. It's all weekly, and you get to notice a trend. Everything is driven by trend. Everything in our lives are driven by trends, right? If you think about it for a second, the price of eggs last week was this, and now this week it's this. That means next week it'll probably be this. Everything runs on trends, right? Including your properties, right? So that's just one aspect as far as keeping an eye on property management and staying on top of them, right? And at this point, we have enough properties now that I have to keep it as 2 separate days because there's just too many properties to cover in 1 hour or whatever. But so we separate it out into 2, but we go through the KPI call every week. And if there's a problem, then we do a micro dive and we figure out, okay, what's going on here with this asset, or is there a problem tenant, or whatever the case may be. And again, the same thing I said about negativity. I don't want negative tenants. I don't want negative investors. I don't want any negative at all, right? If we get an inkling that there might be a potential negative tenant, it's like, we don't know if we're going to take them on or not, right? It's we just don't like that because they're going to cause problems and wreak havoc on the whole asset, right? They introduced that. I probably shouldn't say that on a call like this, but that's just how we roll, right? But everything we do is primarily C-class assets. I will buy B if we could find a decent value,
Mm-hmm.
And primarily B and C areas as well, right? One great asset that we bought recently, that's B area, C-class asset. It's the perfect unicorn that everybody keeps looking for. Yeah, we got our hands on one. Great deal. Love that deal. Closing one next week, 148 unit deal in West Cleveland, workforce housing. Great people running it currently. We're going to take it over, and it's already at 97% occupancy. It's doing super. It's good, and we're going to take that. We're going to drop it into the same model. But another big thing, even after you acquire it, is defining upfront, right? When you go into a unit and you see, okay, what's the square footage of a unit? The floor, paint, all that fun stuff, and you determine what's it going to cost to turn that unit. Or what did you budget, right? So now when you have your contractors come out, you're going to tell your contractor, okay, Joe, this is what we calculate for the flooring. This is what we calculate for the paint. This is what we're going to pay you. So you can take the job, or you don't, or we'll find someone else that can. That in itself is a transformational thing, right? Because most people, they'll send a contractor out to a unit and they'll say, give me a price, as opposed to you define the price, and then they get to go there and they can, if they want to push back, they can. But if it's just simple floor, paint, mm-hmm. replace, fix a hole, or whatever the case may be, you're going to define that up front, right? Doing the upfront pricing thing has also been a real big deal for how we operate as well. So yeah.
No, I love it. Those great tips there as far as how to manage it, staying on top of it, the weekly calls, which I think make a ton of sense, following the trends, understanding what's happening with the project, and then really owning the one at a high level, owning the approach. You talked about no negativity, and negativity is not a protected class. I think it's okay if you get an inkling that people are negative, you can work around that. But and then the construction side of it, you're making sure that you stay in charge of the numbers and the budget. And as long as your numbers are tight and correct, you should be able to find people who can fit within those numbers there. Agostino, this has been really good so far. Let's transition into our bullseye round. You ready?
All right, let's go.
How has a failure or apparent failure set you up for later success?
I would say that failure actually benefited me in a way that you would never expect. It eliminated everything out of my life. Everything. I had to sell everything to get into this business, right? It opened my eyes to say, okay, if I'm going to go into multifamily, I need to unload everything. I sold my cars, I sold my houses, I sold my properties, I sold it all just so I can do this. That failure made me realize that I didn't belong where I was, and I needed to be in real estate. That's where I needed to be. And that's what failure did. So in a way, failure actually helped me get to where I'm at today. A massive failure. That's what it did. I hope that nobody else has to fail to the same extent I did, because it was pretty bad. But you know what though? If I hadn't failed, I'd still be working a miserable job somewhere in corporate America, and that would totally suck. I would just be so unhappy. I wouldn't have the life I'd have today.
What is the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year?
You know, I read a lot of books, as I mentioned, and you know, the 10X rule comes to mind. Grant Cardone, I talk about that. That is a life-changing book. But you know, I'm also a big fan of Seneca, you know, the Stoic, right? On the shortness of life. And you know, I touched on this before. We're running out of time, man. We're running out of time. We often live like we have an unlimited amount of time, and we don't. You know, one day, or maybe you know, some of your listeners out there, you're gonna look in the mirror and you're gonna notice a new wrinkle that wasn't there yesterday. You know, and then there's gonna be something. Maybe my elbow feels a little tight today, right? Yeah, that's age, man. And we're running out of time. You got to make the most of it. You have to. And you know, there's more to life than you know. I mean, I know I sound anti-corporate, but you know, after going through what I had to go through, and I was all about building success in corporate America. Man, it's terrible. It's just terrible. There's a whole world out there. You know, there's a whole big world out there, and I mean, you know, not to sound like I'm showing off. I'm going to Colombia in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be going there for a month. I don't even have a return flight yet. I don't know when I'm coming back yet. You know, and I work out every day at the gym, and I mentioned it to one of the coaches, and she says, I have no idea what that's like. Well, like, what's that like? What's it like? I go, it's freedom. Every day is Friday. You know, that's the way that's the way everyone should live. Everyone should be free, you know, that's the way it should be, but it's not. But if I can help anybody out there get to that freedom, then I've done my job.
Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for your business.
It's gonna sound terrible. YouTube. I don't know what else to say. I mean, YouTube. YouTube. And I only say YouTube, and it's too general, I think. But there are so many different tools out there now that you can learn and train from, right? And that stuff wasn't available when I was going to school. Not to the extent it is today. I mean, when I was going to college, right? I was told probably the same as you. You know, you go to school, you get good grades. You know, you do your master's degree, get a second master's. I did all that, man. I got, you know, double associates, and a bachelor's, 2 master's degrees, all that fun stuff, and all tech related stuff. And if I would have just trained myself the same way I'd been doing in real estate, my life would have been totally different. It's hard to say if I'd be making a decision now based on everything that I've had, but the point is that most of the information that I mentioned is all available there. It's if you just train and study. I mean, even on Bulletproof Cash Flow on the YouTube channel, we have, I think, over 200 videos there just on multifamily, you know, and we're not even close to done yet, you know. So it's there's just a whole wealth of information out there on how to do this business. But it's like I said before, you just got to pick one or two mentors, even if they're virtual mentors, you know, and just train and learn everything you can from them.
What is a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals?
Oh, that's easy. Going to the gym every morning. First thing I do, I still wake up early. 5 o'clock in the morning, I'm up, and even that's kind of late. But you know, at that point, I'm not even thinking. My brain isn't even running yet. I get in the car, I go to the gym, and then the gym wakes me up. And then by the time I get home, I do my affirmations, right? Mm-hmm. That to have a clear mind, you have to have a clear body. You know, don't eat meat. You know, don't eat meat. I haven't eaten meat in over 20 years. And you know, don't smoke. Don't really drink a lot socially. You know, that kind of thing. That's it, man. You know, try to stay healthy. Again, this is the only one we got. It's the only body we get, right? We don't get a second one, not yet, anyway. So we got to make the most of it. You know, we got to make the most of it.
What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
Oh man, when I was starting out, geez, I wish I would have known about the power of real estate. That's what I wish I would have known. I mean, I the reason why I did it the first time, then the whole single family and small multifamily thing, I'll tell you, even though I was a successful C-level executive making bank, I was still living in fear every single day. I was afraid, and I was making bank, and I had no reason to be afraid, but I was always operating like I was afraid, scarcity mode, right? All the time. And I knew that if I could buy enough houses and I could buy enough multifamily or single family, small multifamily, if I could do that, then if something happens, I'll be protected. That was my whole reason for doing it. Stupid. To live life like that is ridiculous. And I mean, part of what I do now is with the whole YouTube channel is to help other people hopefully realize their freedom, but it's also an instruction manual for my son. That's what it is. Imagine having your dad tell you how to do real estate, talking to you about how to do real estate, right? So that's part of the reason why is that he won't have to learn the lesson the same way I had to, the hard way, right? I had to stumble around to find it, where, by me creating all this material, I'm leaving it for everyone else, but I'm also leaving it for him.
What's one thing now that you wish you knew 12 months ago?
I think that 12 months ago, social media was an important part of our business, right? And I think now that we've taken on and hired more virtual assistants, more VAs, it has expanded it tremendously. I can't even begin to tell you how much it has done. I mean, it's only a couple of them. I'm not even talking 10 or 15 of them, just 2, right? Mm-hmm. And it has expanded our touch points, right? I'm not going to say that, oh my God, it yielded X millions of dollars or anything else like that. Nothing like that. All I'm saying is that more people have discovered us and found us, right? And that's cool. I'm okay with that. They found us. We've been able to touch more lives, right? They know who I am. They know about Bulletproof Cash Flow. They know about our movement. And if I would have known that I could use, I already know I could use social media that way, but if I would have known I could do that with VAs, I would have done it a whole lot sooner.
Love it. All right, Agostino, you are in the Believe land, city of Cleveland. Give me the best place to grab a bite.
Cleveland Vegan.
All right.
If you're a vegetarian, you'll appreciate it.
All right. I love it. Well, listen, this has been a lot of fun. You've given us so many great tips. Love hearing your story of how you kind of transition. We didn't go super deep into the Canada part, but just kind of how you made your transition from corporate America, from Canada, all of your schooling and education, getting to Cleveland, coming through those dark periods and actually launching a platform that has grown to $40 million worth of real estate, and how you're helping other people through Bulletproof Cash Flow. I think that's really important just because, a lot of this, when it comes to multifamily, we talk all the time about this being a team sport. One individual cannot do this by themselves. You need people to help. Maybe somebody's a great underwriter. Maybe somebody's great with networking and raising capital. Maybe someone else is really good with broker relationships. But nonetheless, you need people. You need a team to be able to take down some of these large deals. I think you've embodied that with the portfolio you've been able to build over the last 20 months, and then helping to educate other people on how to do that. For our listeners who want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Bulletproofcashflow.com. You can also find us on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, same handle, bulletproofcashflow.com. But one thing that you mentioned about the team, an important part of the team is to have the broker, right? At least that's a big part of mine. And if you want to, if your listeners want to text the word freedom to the phone, I have a phone number here, 202-410-4202. Then we'll send them a free ebook on how to basically reach out to brokers and how to get a broker to actually call you back, right? What you have to do with that. So it's 202-410-4202, right? So I'm sure you put in notes as well, but that's been it's the lessons I learned from how to do all this. My lessons are in there.
Awesome, man. Great to hear. Well, listen, it's great talking to you, and we'll be in touch. Thank you again for coming on Target Market Insights.
Thank you, sir.